I still remember the exact moment when Derek Harlow crushed 3 years of my hard work with a single dismissive wave of his hand. The quarterly review meeting at Apex Financial had been going for nearly 2 hours, the Manhattan skyline darkening outside our glass-walled conference room as my future dimmed with it. While your numbers are adequate, Derek said, barely glancing at my immaculate performance report. You simply don't have the leadership experience we're looking for in a senior analyst position. The 7 other executives nodded along. They always did when Derek spoke. His Harvard MBA and memberships at exclusive country clubs had that effect on people. I noticed his Yale cufflinks catching the light as he closed my file with finality, that familiar smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. We'll revisit your candidacy next quarter, perhaps, he added, already turning his attention to the next agenda item. I maintained my professional smile, even as I felt something harden inside me. This wasn't about my leadership skills. This was Derek doing what he'd done since I joined Apex Financial, protecting his carefully cultivated inner circle from outsiders like me who threatened the status quo with actual results rather than connections. What Derek Harlow didn't know was that I had been meticulously documenting every questionable decision, every instance of favoritism, every client meeting where his golf buddies received preferential treatment over more qualified team members, not out of vendetta, though I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some satisfaction in it. But because patterns tell stories, and I'm very good at recognizing patterns. I returned to my desk that evening, staying long after most had gone home. The cleaning staff knew me by name at this point. Opening my bottom drawer, I pulled out a leather portfolio where I kept my contingency plans. Tonight, Plan B was officially activated. The next morning brought unexpected news that rippled through the office. Apex had secured the Henderson account, a massive client acquisition that would reshape our department's future. More importantly, Regional VP Catherine Winters would be conducting a surprise restructuring to accommodate the new business. An opportunity in crisis, my father always said. By lunchtime, I had emailed Catherine a comprehensive proposal I'd been refining for months. Efficiency measures that would streamline our division while addressing the exact weaknesses in Derek's leadership that had cost us 2 major accounts last quarter. Before you continue watching this shocking workplace transformation, a quick heads up to my loyal viewers. YouTube has been randomly unsubscribing people lately, so take a second to check if you're still subscribed and drop a like to support these real workplace revenge stories. Now, let's get back to how I turned the tables on Derek. Wednesday arrived with whispers of leadership changes coming. Derek seemed distracted, taking more closed-door calls than usual. I noticed Catherine and 2 board members observing our department floor from the glass-enclosed walkway above, their eyes following me as I led an impromptu strategy session with my team. Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. "Ms. Reynolds, could you join us in the executive conference room?" Catherine's assistant asked, and that's how I found myself early Friday morning, sitting at the head of the mahogany conference table, watching Derek's face transform from confusion to shock to barely contained rage as I introduced myself as Apex Financial's new division director, his direct superior. "I believe we have some changes to discuss about leadership in this department," I said, gesturing to the empty chair to my right. "Don't you agree, Derek?" Meh. Derek's face was a masterpiece of conflicting emotions: shock, disbelief, and the unmistakable panic of a man watching his carefully constructed kingdom crumble. He lowered himself into the chair beside me, his knuckles white against his leather portfolio. "This must be some kind of mistake," he said, his voice struggling to maintain its usual authoritative tone. "I wasn't informed of any leadership changes." "Not a mistake, Derek. An overdue correction," I replied, sliding the department restructuring document toward him. Catherine and the board were quite impressed with my Henderson proposal. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the Manhattan skyline I'd gazed at so many times from the other side of this table. Now I was the one with the view. "You've been division manager for what, 4 years?" I continued, opening his personnel file. "Interesting that under your leadership, client retention has dropped 17%, while expenses have increased. That's quite a pattern." His eyes narrowed. "Those numbers don't tell the whole story." "I agree completely," I said with a smile. "Which is why I included your email exchanges with the Westbrook team, where you diverted their account to your college roommates division, despite their explicit request to work with my team." The color drained from his face. "You had no right to access those communications." "As a matter of fact, I was CC'd on them, Derek. I just never responded. I was collecting data, something I'm rather good at." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Outside, I could see our colleagues arriving, glancing curiously toward the conference room where their former and new bosses were engaged in what looked like an intense conversation. "Listen," Derek leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I'm sure we can work something out. You've clearly got ambition, and I respect that. Perhaps we could form an alliance that benefits us both." I couldn't help but laugh. An alliance? 3 days ago, you told me I lacked leadership qualities. Now you want to be partners? The intercom buzzed, and my assistant's voice came through. "Ms. Reynolds, your 9:30 with the Henderson team is ready in conference room B." Thank you, Jen." I gathered my papers and stood. "Derek, I expect a full transition report by Monday. Oh, and I'm reassigning the Westbrook account to my former team. They've earned it with their performance, not their country club memberships." Before I could leave, Derek grabbed my wrist. "You have no idea what you're doing. I have friends in this company, connections you couldn't possibly understand." I gently removed his hand. "If you'd actually read my performance reports instead of dismissing them, you might have noticed that I've increased my client portfolio by 42% in 3 years. I didn't do that by making friends, Derek. I did it by being better than everyone else." Just as I reached the door, I turned back. "One more thing. I'll need access to all client files by end of day. And Derek?" I paused, savoring the moment. "That corner office of yours has a better view of the park. Have your things moved out by lunch." I walked down the hallway toward my meeting, the weight of 3 years of frustration lifting from my shoulders. But I knew this was just the beginning. Derek wasn't going to accept defeat easily, and his connections were real. What he didn't know was that I had connections of my own, and a plan that was only just starting to unfold. Little did I realize that by Monday morning, the entire corporate dynamic would shift again in a way none of us could have predicted. The Henderson meeting went even better than I'd anticipated. As I walked out of conference room B, I couldn't help but notice the whispers and glances from colleagues who'd already heard about the leadership change. Some looked impressed, others concerned. In corporate America, allegiances shift faster than stock prices. By noon, I was settling into Derek's, my corner office. The view of Central Park was everything I'd imagined, sprawling greenery contrasting against Manhattan's steel and glass. My personal items barely filled one box, but they do for now. I wasn't here to decorate. I was here to rebuild. As I organized my workspace, my phone buzzed with a text from Catherine, the VP who championed my promotion. "Dinner at the Smith tonight? 7 p.m. We need to discuss strategy." I confirmed the appointment just as Lisa from HR appeared in my doorway. "Congratulations on the promotion," she said, her tone professionally neutral. "I've brought the transition paperwork." "Thanks, Lisa. Any word from Derek?" "He's clearing out his desk downstairs. Security is supervising." I raised an eyebrow. "That bad?" Let's just say he's not embracing change gracefully, she replied, placing a folder on my desk. These need signatures by end of day. After Lisa left, I opened my laptop to review the Westbrook account. What I found made my blood run cold. 3 days of projected data were missing, critical forecasts we needed for Monday's presentation. I immediately called Derek's extension. No answer. I headed down to the old department floor. The familiar hum of keyboards and muted conversations fell silent as I entered. 20 pairs of eyes followed me as I walked to my old cubicle area, where Derek was stuffing items into a box. The Westbrook projections, I said quietly. Where are they? He looked up with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Technical difficulties, I suppose. Servers, you know, so unreliable these days. Restore them. Now. I'd love to help, but I'm no longer in a position of authority here, he replied, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Perhaps your leadership qualities can solve the problem. I leaned closer. You really want to play this game? Game? I'm simply complying with your directive to vacate my position, he said. Oh, and I took the liberty of calling the Westbrook CEO personally to explain the transition. He wants to meet with you, immediately. My stomach dropped. The Westbrook account was worth millions. If they pulled out because of Derek's sabotage, I maintained my composure. Appreciate the heads up, I'll handle it. As I turned to leave, Derek called after me. By the way, you might want to check who's meeting with the board right now. My friend Thomas from legal had some concerns about how certain information was obtained. I kept walking, my mind racing. Thomas was the company's general counsel and Derek's racquetball partner. This wasn't just petty revenge, it was a calculated counterattack. Back in my office, I found 3 urgent messages. The Westbrook CEO wanted a call in an hour. Catherine had cancelled our dinner with no explanation, and the board requested my presence at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Before I could process this, my email pinged with a company-wide announcement. Thomas was conducting a routine review of departmental protocols, effective immediately. I stared out at the Central Park view I'd coveted for so long. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the landscape, and I couldn't help but feel those shadows creeping into my perfect victory as well. Just then, my phone rang with an unknown number. When I answered, the voice on the other end was the last person I expected to hear from. And what they offered would change everything about my approach to surviving Derek's counteroffensive. Before we continue with this unexpected alliance, I should mention that YouTube has been removing subscriptions lately, so make sure you're still subscribed and hit that like button to support our channel. Now, let me tell you about the shocking proposal that landed in my lap just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated. The caller's identity would prove that in corporate warfare, the most dangerous players are often the ones operating in plain sight. And by tomorrow morning, I would need to make a decision that would either cement my new position or cost me everything I'd worked for. It's Catherine. Her voice was hushed, almost a whisper. Don't say my name. I'm calling from a burner phone. My pulse quickened. Catherine Winters, the regional VP who championed my promotion, was now sneaking around to contact me. I can't talk long, she continued. The board meeting wasn't routine. Thomas presented evidence that Derek had been funneling Westbrook's assets through shell companies. They think you were his accomplice. That's absurd. Listen carefully, she cut me off. Your promotion wasn't just about performance. We needed someone in that position who could expose what's happening. Derek's been protected by powerful people for years. I sank into my chair, processing what she was saying. You used me as bait. Meet me at Bryant Park in 30 minutes. Northwest corner, by the reading room. Come alone and don't tell anyone. The line went dead. Through my office window, the Manhattan skyline glittered indifferently, oblivious to the corporate minefield I was navigating. I grabbed my coat and headed for the elevator, mind racing. If Catherine was right, I wasn't just fighting for my career. I was potentially involved in something criminal without even knowing it. The autumn air was crisp as I hurried through Bryant Park. Catherine sat alone on a bench, looking nothing like the polished executive I knew. Dressed in jeans and a baseball cap, nervously scanning the area. "Derek isn't just Thomas's racquetball partner," she said without preamble. "They've been running a sophisticated embezzlement scheme for years. The missing Westbrook data? It's not about projections. It's evidence." Before I could process this bombshell, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Check your personal email. Now." If you're enjoying this office power struggle with unexpected twists, take a quick second to make sure you're still subscribed. YouTube's been dropping followers lately. Hit that like button too. Now back to what happened next. I opened my email to find a single attachment. Financial records showing suspicious transfers between Westbrook accounts and offshore entities. The sender, Derek's executive assistant, who I'd barely spoken to in 3 years. "Tomorrow's board meeting is a setup," Catherine whispered. "They're going to pin everything on you unless we move first." As night fell over Manhattan, I realized the corner office view I dreamed of came with a price I never anticipated. By morning, I would need to decide, become a whistleblower against some of Wall Street's most powerful players, or take the fall for a scheme they'd expertly crafted. And the most dangerous revelation still awaited me back at my apartment, where someone had clearly been searching through my files. My apartment door was ajar when I returned. Heart pounding, I entered cautiously, finding Derek's assistant waiting in my living room. "They don't know I'm here," she said, hands trembling. "I've been gathering evidence for months. Thomas and Derek didn't just compromise the company. They compromised me." She handed me a flash drive. "Everything's here. Account numbers, meeting recordings, signed documents. Thomas forced me to falsify records, threatening my family if I talked." I stared at this tiny device holding career-ending evidence. "Why help me?" "Because you refuse to play their game. The board meeting tomorrow? It's their final move." Nizu, that night, I barely slept, poring over the evidence. By dawn, I had my plan. I arrived at Westbrook an hour early, walked straight to the CEO's office and placed the evidence on his desk. His face paled as he reviewed it. "I need your support," I said. "I'm not going down for them." When the board meeting began, Thomas and Derek strutted in confidently. The setup was perfect until the CEO interrupted. "Before we continue, there's new information." He nodded to me. I stood, heart racing. The missing data has been found, along with evidence of who actually manipulated company assets. The security team entered. Thomas lunged for the door, but was blocked. "This is absurd," Derek shouted. "The FBI is waiting downstairs," I replied calmly. "They're particularly interested in your offshore accounts." By Friday, the company announced emergency leadership changes. The press release named me as interim department head. Effectively, Derek's boss. Catherine later told me, "Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success, it's justice." That corner office, I got it. But more importantly, I learned that integrity isn't just a corporate buzzword. It's the ultimate power move. If you've enjoyed this roller coaster of corporate intrigue, please subscribe for more stories about underdogs taking down the powerful. Hit that notification bell to never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best response to being blocked isn't getting mad, it's getting promoted.